We're talking confidence, how to find it, keep it, and make it real. Such a vital thing in all areas of our life. And I already mentioned when we got started here that what we're going to be talking about today is going to apply to everything that you do, every part of your life. So don't worry if you feel like, I don't know if this stuff is going to apply to me or whatever. It is absolutely going to apply to you. So first of all, my name is Todd Lewis. I'm honored that you've taken your time to be here today. I know all of you are busy. You've got a lot going on in your lives. And the fact that you are taking time to be here today, to watch this program, to be present, I commend you, and I promise you I'm going to do everything I can to make this a very powerful 45 or 50 minutes that we have together. All I ask of you is that you don't multitask. Put away everything else that you've got going on. I know you got a lot going on. Put away the emails, close down your social media. Just be here and be present, because the way I like to look at it is if you treat this as if you had invested $1,000 to be here today, you wouldn't be doing anything else, would you? You'd be focused 100%. Now, I'm not saying that what I'm going to give you is worth $1,000 and being egotistical about it. I'm not saying that. I hope that it will, and I believe that you will get great value out of this. But just don't multitask and really put your focus here. If you do, I promise you it's going to resonate and you're going to get a lot out of today. All right, so first, let's start with what is confidence. Now, I'm going to be moving around a lot here. I tend to do that in the real world when I'm teaching. I do that in virtual reality as well. So hopefully it won't be too annoying when I do that. And also, I'm going to come down a little closer here because I want to get really close to the people that are attending here in virtual reality. I like to be right there and be present with you. So what is confidence? The best definition that I have found is it's a feeling of self-assurance that arises from an appreciation of one's own abilities or qualities. That is at its core what confidence is. Now, when you utilize that definition of confidence, it becomes very clear how this is applicable every day of our lives, every moment of our lives, because every moment we are asking things of ourselves. Am I worthy? Am I good? Am I doing the right thing right now? Am I good at what I do? Am I a good communicator with my spouse, with my people before? Confidence is at the core of everything we do. And today we're going to talk about 5 key areas of building your self-confidence. And believe me, every human being on the planet can do this. Every single human being on the planet can do this. It doesn't matter what your education is. It doesn't matter what your upbringing is. Yes, certain people that have been brought up in certain ways that will already maybe have more self-confidence built in, but everyone can use this. So feel free to pass on what you learned today to your coworkers, to your spouse, to your children. My goodness, pass this stuff on to your children, please. It's so important that we raise children that feel confident in themselves every day of their lives. Now, here are the 5. I'm going to give you just the quick overview of the 5 different things to improve self-confidence. Number 1 is body language. Number 2 is positive assumptions. Number 3 is emotional control. Number 4 is have a growth mindset. And finally, number 5 is to take an action. We're going to cover each one of these in great detail as we go through this program. So let's start right at the top with body language. How can you utilize body language to not only present more confidence, but to also feel more confident? So I want to be very clear. Virtually none of what I'm going to talk about today is about fake it till you make it. I'm not a big fan of faking it until you get there. However, there will be some things in building confidence and exuding confidence that might feel a little bit like, well, I'm not feeling really confident right now, but I'm going to try to outwardly express confidence. And that is not a fake it till you make it. What it actually is it's a way of using neuro-linguistic programming, which is basically, at its core, your mind and body connection to get you to feel naturally more confident by using body language. So the first thing you can do is think back to a time when you met someone and you felt particularly confident in that moment, whether it was a business associate, a potential client or customer, whether it was a person that would become a close friend, whether it was a spouse the first time you met them, a time when you felt particularly confident interacting with another person. What physical attributes did you feel she or he had? So if you weren't feeling confident in that moment, but they seemed confident, what was it about them that seemed confident physically? And think of what those things were. Did they make really great eye contact with you? That's a great sign of somebody that's really confident, right? Is they're making good eye contact, right? If they're constantly talking and they're looking down, and then maybe they're looking up over here, but they're, that doesn't seem very confident, does it? Maybe it was that. Maybe it was their posture. Maybe it was the way they used their hands. If you could tell, I don't know, I must have some Italian in me. I don't know, because I use my hands to talk all the time. That's the same in the real world as it is right here in virtual reality, because the hand gestures that you're seeing are my actual hands doing what they would be doing. Maybe that made them seem more confident. Okay, maybe it was the pace at which they talked, the volume, whatever it was. You've heard of it when people walk in a room and they just kind of own the room, right? What does that mean when they own the room? There's something physical going on there that just exudes confidence. So make a mental note of that. When you meet someone that seems to have that kind of confidence, what is it physically that is making them seem that way? Because we're talking, again, the mind-body connection. Now, what's so wonderful here is it's the chicken or the egg principle, right? I get asked a lot, Todd, which has to come first? Do I have to truly be confident in order to seem confident? Or do I have to kind of seem confident and then I'll start to feel more confident? And the truth of the matter is, yes. It's both of those. The mind-body connection works in both directions. Sometimes if you're not feeling particularly confident for some reason, then maybe, if I'm just kind of, oh man, I gotta teach a class today and I don't feel really prepared and I've got a little bit of imposter syndrome going on. I don't know if I'm ready. Then I got to say, Todd, snap out of it. Okay. You know an awful lot, Todd. You may not know everything, but teach the stuff you know. Just go out there and show them what you know. And all of a sudden now, physically, I'm standing up more straight. I'm looking out here, my head is up. I'm feeling more confident already. That's the mind first and the body follows. Or in that case, you know what? I'm going to sit up straight. I'm going to breathe. All right. I'm feeling better already. I'm taking some nice deep diaphragmatic breaths. It's already making me feel a little bit more confident. So that mind-body connection works both ways. Now, how do you carry yourself? Now, I'm not talking about, I'll hear people that'll say all the time, all right, now, if you want to carry yourself with confidence, you gotta stand up, you gotta thrust that chest out there. Just thrust that chest out. I'm not talking about coming across as dominant, okay? We're not talking about being a dominant human being. Confidence just has an air to it in how you carry yourself. How do you walk when you're walking around? Pay attention to these things. If you walk with slumped shoulders, if you tend to walk around taking small steps, maybe that's going to help lead you to feeling a little less confident than if you were to walk with a little bit more of a confident stride. Hold your posture up, your chin up, not like a bully or something like that. It's just about having that confidence. So be aware of how you carry yourself. If you work by yourself primarily or spend a lot of time in your day alone working or whatever, this becomes even more important because you're doing it purely for yourself now. And that's just as important, if not more important, than exuding confidence for other people. So be aware as you're walking around your house or your office, if you're working by yourself, how am I carrying myself when no one else is watching? Do you make eye contact with people? This is a tough one for me, I'm going to admit. When in my day-to-day life, I tend to not make eye contact with people maybe quite as much as I should. And my reason for that, in my defense, is I don't want people to feel creeped out. I don't want to feel like I'm staring or am I making eye contact too long? So I err on the side of not making enough eye contact sometimes. I'm working on that because eye contact is where we really make connections with people. The eyes are the windows to the soul, right? You can't be in sales and not know how important eye contact is. But you don't want to stare. You don't want to make eye contact so much you're making people uncomfortable. But be aware of making eye contact with people that does exude confidence. If you're not doing that, people can oftentimes feel like you're hiding something. Or maybe, hey, you know what? Maybe Todd doesn't know as much about what he's talking about as he's saying, because he's not making eye contact with me. And that makes me think he might be fibbing. He might not be telling me the whole truth. How are you breathing? I already talked a little bit about the importance of taking a deep diaphragmatic breath. If you're ever finding yourself, I don't feel very confident right now, stop for a moment. It takes 10 seconds. Stop for a moment and just go, breathe in, hold it for a few seconds, breathe out. We as human beings do not take nice deep breaths nearly as much as we should. When you take a nice deep breath in, you are filling your lungs with oxygen. That oxygen is immediately getting absorbed into the blood, and it's heading out to the rest of your body, including your brain. Your brain needs that oxygen, and that's going to help you feel more energized, and energy equals confidence a lot of the time. What is your posture like? We already talked about that, so we can skip back that. But remember, if you change your body, your mind will follow. How many of you are old enough to remember the song? What is it? Oh my gosh, who sang that? Free your mind and the rest will follow. Oh gosh, who was that? Oh well, I don't remember. But if you're old enough to remember that song, Delcine, did you know that one?
In Vogue.
En Vogue. Thank you. I knew it began with an A, an E, and I couldn't remember. It's En Vogue. Absolutely. Free your mind and the rest will follow. That applies right here. Whenever you're not feeling confident, remember En Vogue, remember that song, and utilize body language. All right, next up, positive assumptions. That's the second step here. Now we're moving away from the body a little bit, and we're moving into the mind, how we're managing our own mind. If you change what you focus on, you will change your confidence and your effectiveness. We are who we are because of what's gone into our minds. That's what makes us the human being that we are. More than anything else in our lives, what goes into our minds, either passively or intentionally, is what makes us who we are. So be very aware of what you're focusing on from moment to moment, and that will change your confidence. In preparation for today, over the last couple of days, I was putting together from other programs that I've done, and then also putting some new stuff in. What am I going to talk about today? And then before I came in here to do this program, I got in a little bit early. I was making sure I was very clear on what I wanted to talk about, and I was making, most importantly, sure that I was thinking only about this stuff. That's why I said when we started, do yourself a favor, don't multitask while we're doing this program. Because if you're multitasking, you're focusing on something other than what you should be focusing on in this present moment to get the most out of it. And that also can cause lack of confidence, right? We've all had those moments where in sales, let's use sales for example, you've been either getting ready, you've gone in and you're talking with a client and you're trying to get them to become happily involved with your product or service, and it didn't go well. And when you looked back on it, you're like, why didn't I close that sale? Or why did it feel like that client wasn't connecting very well with me? Most times you'll probably go, you know what? I wasn't as focused as I should have been. I found myself thinking about something that happened this morning before I left home, and it was just, and I wasn't present. So be very careful of what you're focusing on. Where focus goes, energy flows. From one of my absolute favorite educators, coaches, consultants, Tony Robbins, Anthony Robbins. Who here, show some emojis if you're in virtual reality. How many of you have heard of Tony Robbins, Anthony Robbins? Okay, at least half of you. Okay, good. Yes, very powerful. Now, I say this every time I bring up Tony Robbins. I don't agree 100% with everything that he says, but 80 to 90% of what I've learned from studying Tony Robbins over the years, I feel has been personally very helpful to me. And that's what counts. And that concept there of where focus goes, energy flows, it's one of my favorites of his. Now, here's another thing. You hear this, you're not going to hear me do sports analogies very often. Self-admittedly, I am not a big sports person. really watch football or soccer or football as it's called by the rest of the world. I don't watch football or American football. I'm not a basketball person. The closest I've come is I've watched tennis over the years because I played a little bit of tennis. So I've watched Roger Federer and Williams sisters and stuff play over the years, even going back to oh god, what's his name? Andy Roddick, stuff like that. But this is one time I'm going to give you a sports analogy. We've heard great coaches in the sports world say, play the game through in your mind before you play it on the field, or play it on the course, or play it on the court. Play it in your mind first. It's one of the things I did in preparation to do this program today. I never take for granted, oh, I've taught this stuff 100 times. I can just go in and wing it. I don't ever want to get that complacent. So I always go in and I play through my program in my mind first, the entire program from start to finish. What am I going to say about this? It doesn't mean I'm going to do it exactly the same way once I'm here, but I've already played it through in my mind. Tiger Woods has been a great example of this over the course of his career. One of the best golfers in history. I think we can all agree upon that, regardless of anything else that's happened in his life. A great golfer. And he has said he always plays the entire course through in his head before he goes out on the course to play it live. And he'll do it multiple times. So do that when you're preparing for something big where you need to have confidence. I've got to have confidence right now. Play it through first. It will give you that sense of confidence. All right. Replace negative words with positive words. This sounds so basic, right? I know you're probably going, oh, Todd, it's like common sense. Well, I hate to break it to you, but it's uncommon sense. It's not common sense. It's uncommon, because we need to remind ourselves that if you're negative, if you have negative thoughts going through your head when you need confidence, it's not going to boost your confidence. It's going to sap it away. So if you're ever not feeling confident, get all those negative thoughts out of your head. Imposter syndrome, like Jim brought up before we started, right? What about the imposter syndrome? If you're like, man, I feel like an imposter right now, get rid of that. Don't focus on the things you don't know. Focus on the things you do know. Focus on the positive stuff, and that will boost it. And you'll go, you know what? I do know some stuff I can pass on to people. I don't know everything, but nobody does. Remember, focus, replace those negative words with positive words. And then acknowledge your successes and forget about the failures. If I came in here today to present this live, focus on time when I did a program where it just didn't go well. We had technical, I had a little technical issue before we started here, right? Actually, I had two of them. I could have let that derail the whole rest of the thing, but I was like, no, I can fix this. Just give me a second here. I apologize. We got it done and we're ready and we're rocking. If now through the rest of this program, if I focused on the beginning of this program and went, dang it, Todd, you weren't, something went wrong technically. You must not have been as prepared as you thought you were. Oh man, that just ruined everything. If that's what's in my mind, I'm not going to give you a good program today. So as soon as that happened, the immediate thing that I did was I said, I'm going to let that go. Hey there, Mateo. Good to have you here. We'll be doing some live questions here coming up soon. So hopefully you can hear me okay. If you have any questions, we'll be getting to those probably here in a minute. We'll take a break and we'll answer any questions or comments anyone might have. So again, don't focus on the failures that have happened. Focus on the times things went well. It's guaranteed things will go wrong, but it's how you handle what happens that's most important. That's more important than what happens, is how you handle it, and that helps to build confidence. All right, let's pause here for a moment. I've been talking here nonstop for about 15 or 20 minutes already. I want to see if there are any questions that any of you here in virtual reality have. If you do, go ahead and hit your raised hand button. It should be down in the lower right side of your screen there. You can hit your button, and Roberto will be able to let me know you have a question. And any of you who are joining us on Zoom, well, if you have a question, type that into the chat. Let Roberto know, and we'll field a couple questions here. And if we don't have any questions, we'll move on to number 3. Roberto, any questions thus far? He is looking feverishly.
Nobody's hit the participate button yet. Anybody have a question on Zoom?
Yeah, don't be shy. Again, there's no such thing as a stupid question.
If something pops up on Zoom, I'll let you know.
Fabulous. Yeah, go ahead and interrupt me at some point if we get any other questions, and any questions from our VR friends so far.
I have a question.
Yes,
Are you
Roberto.
born with confidence, or is it something you have to learn?
Oh my gosh, you are brilliant. In fact, I believe that might be coming up, and I love that you asked that question because I do get asked that a lot. Are you born with confidence, or is it something that you gain over life? So I'm going to put a pin in that one because I'm pretty sure that's coming up here, and I'm going to deal with that right when it comes up. If for some reason I'm remembering this wrong from running through in my head earlier before we started, I will address that for sure. I'm going to give you a spoiler alert. Yeah, spoiler alert. No, you're not born with it. Okay, that's all I'm going to say right now. You're not necessarily born with it. It's something that's cultivated, and we will get to that as we go forward. All right. If any other questions come up,
Kojenma
go ahead.
Here on Zoom. Kojenma, I'm sorry if I'm butchering your name here. Kojenma has asked, why is replacing negative words with positive words helpful?
That's a great question. Why is replacing negative words with positive words helpful? Because language, I think as a society, I think globally as a society, but certainly here in the United States where I reside, we woefully underestimate a lot of time the power of language, the power of words, because we've all had it ingrained in us ever since we were a child. You know, we've all heard sticks and stones can break my bones, but words can never hurt me, or names can never hurt me. That is so false. It's so false. We've all been hurt by words, whether it's words somebody has said directly to us or words that we've heard from somebody that we respect or whatever it is. Those have weight. Well, if external words have weight, then maybe the way we're communicating with ourselves has weight too. So if you're focused on negative words, like here's my favorite example. If in preparation for today, I sat down and I said, Todd, you know what? I can't do this. I can't teach a program on confidence. I can't. Well, might that have an effect on my confidence level? You know, if I'm saying to myself, I can't. If instead I said, even if I don't feel very prepared, if I said, you know what, I can do this, and I know I can because I know a lot. I've learned a lot about confidence. I don't know everything. Maybe I need to do a little bit more research in preparation for today's program, and I'll do that, but I can do this. Is that going to have a difference in my confidence level? I don't see how it couldn't have a massive effect on it. So be very, very cautious of your self-communication, how you're communicating with yourself, because you are the one person you are communicating with 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, whether you like it or not. I hope that helps. If you have a follow-up question to that, please feel free to type it in for sure. Oh, it looks like Jim might have a question there, Roberto.
Go ahead, Jim.
I have to raise my virtual hand here.
There we go. I love it.
One of the things I've read too is that our subconscious mind is always listening to us, and it doesn't know true from false. So when you engage in negative self-talk, or even if you don't address something negative that comes your way, what I mean by that is not necessarily addressing. Let's say it's a person saying something, but thinking about, well, that's not true. And then basically, it's almost. I remember a metaphor where it was a genie. And if you were thinking or had negative self-talk going on, saying, I'm not really that good at this, the genie would say, your wish is my command. You know? So that was something that I practiced for well over a year before it wasn't really an issue anymore, to catch it and then basically take some corrective actions as to mitigate that kind of a thing. What are your thoughts
I love
on
that. Yeah, Jim, that is a great comment. The subconscious is incredibly powerful. It's subconscious because it's underneath our conscious level, but it's present all the time. And yeah, if you think of your subconscious mind kind of like a piece of aluminum foil, And that aluminum foil is just laying there, and it's just waiting for you. If you've ever done this as a kid, if you take a piece of paper and you lay it down on a piece of aluminum foil, and you start writing with a pencil on that piece of paper, when you lift that piece of paper up, underneath that aluminum foil is going to have those indentations from what you just wrote, right? So think of the paper as your conscious mind and what you're consciously thinking about, but think of the aluminum foil underneath it as your subconscious mind. That impression stays there, and it's present. And it's present until something happens to scrape that indentation off and put a new one there. Subconscious mind is very, very powerful. And absolutely, what we just talked about, replacing those negative words with positive words, is rewriting your subconscious mind. So very important. A great point, Jim. Thank you. All right. Any other questions, Roberto?
I think that's it.
All right, let's move on, and we'll have time for a few more questions here before we wrap up here. Let's move into number 3, emotional control. Now, this one, I want to preface by saying I am not a licensed or trained psychologist, okay, or psychiatrist, all right? However, I have been a student of human psychology as long as I can remember. Being a marketer, a seller, an educator, a writer, and an actor and performer, every aspect of everything I do in my life and that I'm passionate about, at its core, is driven by human psychology. So I've really been a study of this my whole life, but I am not a trained therapist. So please take everything that I say here with a grain of salt and an understanding that I have immense empathy for any human being that struggles with emotional control. All of us struggle at this with some degree from time to time, right? Everybody has days where I don't feel very in control of my own thoughts and emotions right now. That is absolutely normal. Some people have more of a challenge of this than others, and I empathize with that 100%. So anything that I say here, I don't want it to ever seem like I'm saying, well, this is super simple, and if you have a difficulty with this, that's your problem. I empathize that different people are going to have more challenges implementing what we're going to talk about here than others. Now, we can take more control of our emotions than we think. Any therapist will tell you that. Any good therapist will say, you probably have more control over your emotions than you may think you do. It doesn't mean we have complete control over it all the time. It doesn't mean other things won't be forces on that. But the first thing you have to do is admit to yourself, I might just have a little bit more control over my emotions on a moment-to-moment basis than I think I do. All right? And that means it's feeling a certain way in order for us to be able to change it. We have to kind of understand the why I'm feeling something before we can have any impact on changing what we're feeling. Confidence is no different. So sometimes if you're feeling particularly not confident, stop for a moment and ask, why am I feeling right now? Why am I feeling such a lack of confidence about this particular subject? Why right now am I feeling less confident than usual? And there might be something that just happened recently that is weighing on you in your subconscious, right? That imprinted moment that is stuck there right now. And what can you do to kind of push that aside a little bit right for now and focus on a moment when you felt a little bit more confident to at least temporarily change your state? One of the things, again, that I learned from Tony Robbins, and he didn't invent this, this comes from neuro-linguistic programming. It's been studied and practiced for dozens of years, if not more, is the idea of changing your state. And what that means is whatever state you're in right now, how you're feeling right now, you can take some actions to attempt to change that. And that's what I mean by, have an understanding what's causing it. That's going to help you to be able to change that emotional response. Thoughts are a little bit easier to change than emotions. Emotions live in our mind and our body in a much deeper way, but they start with thoughts. Most emotions begin with a thought. And that's why I always want you to think about the why. The other thing we have to talk about is the truth. And here we go, Roberto, what you had asked earlier. I knew this was coming up, and that is we are not born with confidence. It's a feeling we cultivate. It's something that's cultivated in us over the course of our entire lives. And so I like to think of it as if you should be a farmer. Think of yourself as a farmer of the mind and choose whether you are going to cultivate weeds or whether you're going to cultivate a bounty of nutrient-rich confidence. You're a farmer, and am I cultivating weeds? Or am I cultivating thoughts that are sapping confidence, that are causing nutrient-rich, bountiful plants of confidence to not be able to grow there? And how can I get rid of those weeds and let that confidence continue to grow? So whenever you're feeling not confident, think of yourself as that farmer. Go in there, get those weeds out of there. Get those weeds out of there so that your confidence has more room to grow. And confidence will grow just as fast as negative thoughts will. Once you get rid of the negative to make room for the positive, get rid of what you don't want to make room for what you do want, that can start changing almost in a moment. I've had times, I'm going to be honest here, I've had times when I've been teaching programs. I was teaching a program yesterday. This is a great example. This might be a little bit more information than you need, but this is a great example. I was teaching yesterday, not a program like this, but I was actually teaching writing. I was teaching a writing class for high school students yesterday at a local school here in Michigan where I live. And I love getting to do that. I love getting to teach programs to students. And I was live in the class. And when I got to the class, my class that I was teaching was the first hour of their day. So I had to be there at 7 o'clock in the morning. When I got there was a lot of hubbub happening in the school, and I couldn't figure out what was going on. There were a lot more people there than usual. All the students were down in the cafeteria, and somebody was out there talking to them. I went right up to the classroom. I got up to the classroom, and the usual teacher of that class was not there. The room was open, but there was no one in the room. So I went in there, and I waited, and I waited. And finally, the teacher of that normal class, who has brought me in to teach a specific writing course, came in, and she said, "Well, Todd, we had a threat made this morning at 5 o'clock on social media at the school." And I said, "Oh my gosh, is everyone okay?" And they said, "Yeah, nothing's happened, but I just wanted you to know that this is what's going on. This is why things are delayed. We're having conversations with the staff. We just had a staff meeting and everything, and the police have been here and all that." She said, "And everything seems to be okay, but I wanted you to know that this is happening, and you can decide if you feel you want to stay here and teach today, or if you'd rather leave." And some of our students are leaving and their parents are getting them, understandably, right? Okay, now the reason, terrifying, right? We live certainly here in the United States. Anyone who lives outside the United States, I don't believe you've got it nearly the challenge that we have here in the United States of mass shootings. Horrible, horrible thing. Regardless of where you stand on gun control. And we don't even have to talk about that. I think we can all agree that's a horrible thing. And so here I am sitting here getting ready to teach a class where I got to have confidence. And what's going through my head is, oh my gosh, this is terrifying. And these poor students, how terrifying it must be. And their parents who are now driving from home to pick up their kids. I could have let that change my state in a major way. And what I did was I sat for a moment. I thought, okay, the police are here. They've gone around. Everything seems fine. There doesn't seem to be any problems. They're going to be watching the door like a hawk. Now, nobody's getting into this school with anything they shouldn't have on them. I'm going to go ahead and say I'm going to stay here, and I'm going to teach the students that are staying here. And I'm not going to let that change what I'm going to teach today. I immediately put that out of my head, and I said, I'm not going to focus on that anymore. And I'm going to focus on the task at hand. All right? So again, I chose to get rid of those weeds that were right there, right in that moment that I was not planning on. And I plucked those weeds out and said, focus, because there's nothing I can do about that. If I've chosen to stay here and teach, I'm going to give it 100%. And I didn't think about it again until I was done teaching after those 2 hours. Okay? Very, very important. Last but not least on emotional control, remember the times when you did feel confident. I've kind of brought that up a couple of times already today. Go back to a time when you did feel confident and remember what that felt like. Bring that into your whole body, your mind, and that will translate into emotion. All right, have a growth mindset. We have 2 more key points here to make, and then I'll answer any other last-minute questions you might have. Have a growth mindset. What do I mean by that? Well, confidence doesn't come from outward, from accomplishments that you've made. It doesn't come from other people telling you how great you are. It truly comes from inside you. I gave this example once before. I'm going to give it again right here just for a moment. I gave this example in one of the very first programs I did here in VR networking. Madonna. All of you probably at least know who Madonna is, right? The incredible singer, performer, actress, director as well. A little bit. I believe she's directed a couple of things. But anyway, we mostly know her as a musician, right? A performer. She was performing a concert for 50,000 people, a gigantic auditorium, a gigantic amphitheater. She's performing for 50,000 people. They are screaming her name. They are loving it. She's giving an incredible performance. And she looks down in the front row, and there's one guy standing in the front row with his arms folded, with no energy, just kind of looking at her like, whatever. Now, confidence, right? Madonna has 49,990 other human beings in that room that are sending her energy saying, you rock. You are amazing. You should be the most confident performer on the planet right now. We love everything you're putting down. But she focused on that one person. And she was like, why is he not having a great time? What am I doing wrong that is causing him not to enjoy this concert? What can I do to please him? If confidence came externally, there's no way she would have lost an iota of confidence, because 1 out of 50,000 people didn't seem pleased. But something inside of Madonna went, I need to please him. I need to entertain him. I need him to feel like he got his money's worth from this concert. And I'm going to put all my energy into that. It comes from inside. So make sure you've got a growth mindset and understand that the responsibility falls solely on you. Now, it doesn't mean you can't get some external help with that. Certainly, it's better if you're hearing good things from people than bad things. But also, hearing bad things does not necessarily mean what you're doing is bad. And hearing great things from people doesn't necessarily mean what you're doing is great. It's what you're feeling inside that really matters. Confidence is not about being sure that you will succeed due to your abilities. It's about knowing that if you don't succeed, if you fail, you'll pick yourself up and you'll continue and try again. That means anyone can do it. That means even if you don't know anything about a particular subject, you can still feel confident that you can master it, that you can learn it, that you have the ability to do it. It's not about whether you'll succeed or fail. It's about what are you going to do if you do fail. Pick yourself back up and do it again. Don't let that mindset slow you down. Make a commitment to focus on the things that you want in life, and confidence will follow. What you tend to focus on, see opportunities to achieve. That's what it's all about. And don't be focused on results all the time. Rather, be focused on the pursuit of completing the task. Don't be as focused on, okay, well, if I do this program today and nobody tells me I did a great job, okay, then I failed. No, don't focus on the results of what you're doing. Focus on just doing. And no matter what happens for the rest of it, I sincerely hope that each one of you takes something from today that benefits your life. That's why I'm here, of course. But whether that happens or not, whether anyone comes up and says, Todd, thank you, whatever, that's okay, because I am loving what's happening right now. I am feeling this. I am loving this. It's not about the result. It's about the process. I love this. And I hope that you're feeling that from my energy as well. All right, last but not least, take an action. Nothing boosts confidence like action. The snowball effect, right? In order, you want to get a giant snowball, go to the top of a hill, make a small snowball, and start rolling it down that hill. And if it's good packing snow, man, you're going to have a gigantic snowball in no time. If you are feeling particularly not confident in an area, then take an action of some sort to learn more, to do something, to reach out to somebody who knows more than you do and ask their advice, whatever it is, and you'll start building that confidence. Think of the snowball effect. Just do something. Don't give yourself excuses of why you're not taking an action. Just do it. Don't give you... The worst is saying, well, I'm just not ready. I don't know enough yet. I don't know enough yet to take a first step. Don't let that stop you. Do something. You know, even if you're supposed to be reaching out to some people, doing some calls for your business, and you're like, well, I don't feel 100% prepared. Don't let that stop you. Inaction is the worst thing in life. Take an action. Just start going. It'll build that confidence, and be clear on what you really want in life. Take a moment and ask yourself, what do I want? What's important here? Before I did this program today, I always ask myself, what do I personally want to get out of doing this program today? What I want to get is I want to reach just one of you. Here in virtual reality, there in Zoom, wherever you are, if I reach one person and I give that one person one thing that improves their life in some way, I've accomplished what I wanted. Guess what? I'm never going to know for sure if that happened. But I believe wholeheartedly that that will happen because I've seen it happen with other people, and I'm working really hard to make that happen because that's what I want. And I'm very clear on that.